Next step in our quest to finding a 53-54 compatible radiator is this one right here. So I've got a 54 Plymouth, and I've tested a few different aluminum radiators because they don't make one for this year vehicle. So I've tried the older ones and they don't work for a various number of reasons. The only one I could find close enough were two radiators. This one here is from a 55-56 Plymouth. The core dimensions are pretty much perfect. It's just the brackets that we're going to have to modify. And then the other one that I tried was a 54 Dodge. And that one was pretty close as well, but took some bracket welding. So this one here, I think we're just going to have to take about an inch off of either side. I did make a template guide here, and it looks like the bolt hole spacing up and down is going to be great. I'm just going to have to make new holes further in here because we need to take some meat off of those mounts there. So I'm going to get started on that, and we'll see if that thing will drop down in here, and if that'll be the answer to the 53-54 Plymouth radiator question. I've got my first modification done, which was to put new holes at the proper distance. So I just measured the distance that the holes were apart on the car over there, and then I measured the core and all that kind of stuff and split the difference. So pretty much what you have to do is drill a hole in line with the hole that's already there. So split that difference right there for your center line, and we're drilling a hole from this outer section if your radiator is the one that I will link here. You need to have this one for the measurements to work. But anyway, it's 0.345 inches this way, further away from the outside of the radiator, but in line with this hole here. So you can see I've got those new holes on all the corners. So now I just need to rip the appropriate amount of the bracket off of either side, and then that should work. The next thing I'm going to have to do is take a little bit of metal off of the inside here of this mount all the way down on both sides. So that's going to clear the body of the radiator right here. So I'm going to cut these brackets and then take a little bit of metal off of here. All right, well, here's the amount that I chopped off of the either side of the radiator here. So now it does fit down in there. It clears the side supports. Now all I have to do is just clearance these sections right here. So from here all the way down, just need to take a little bit off of there. But besides that, everything lines up. We just need to clear the main cooling body of the radiator now. Okay, I've got my first clearancing cut over here on the left side. And you can see I just cut as close to those inserts as I could. And there is the first little sliver here. And then I cut out some of this top portion as well, just in case. So now I just have to repeat that on the other side. And how I did that was I started an entry cut just with an angle grinder and a cutoff disc, and then I completed the cut with this oscillating tool here. I'm sure there are plenty of other great tools for the job. The oscillating tool makes the least amount of sparks, and it's relatively easy to make a straight cut, so that's why I'm doing it the way that I am. So I'll do an entry cut now here from the engine bay side with the cutoff wheel. I'll just cut right here, make an entry cut, and then I'll take the oscillating tool and I'll zip it all the way down. The radiator is sitting in place. I just had to do one more thing. I was able to reuse the original 1/4 20 bolts, but I did have to remove the locking washers. So as you can see, they're all split off because they were just too wide and there wasn't enough clearance to get the bolt in there. As you can see, that hole is pretty close to the side of the radiator there. So I had to remove those and go with some smaller washers, and then we're going to use split washers to hold it in place. So this looks like this will be the final step to getting this radiator in here. We have just enough clearance over there with my fuel filter. Now some of you will not have that on there. I'm going to run it on there as a precaution, but I do have enough clearance to keep it in there. So this will also let me retain the fan shield, which was a really important thing to me. I really wanted to be able to keep this thing in here. That is something that the 53 and 54 cars only have. And even though it doesn't have a top bracket like my original radiator, it's better than nothing. So I'm just gonna get to bolting this thing up and we'll see how the final fitment looks. Well, the radiator is in, mounted up nice and solid, and now I can move on with the rest of my work. So gotta do carb rebuild, install the water pump, and put the bottom end back together. So there's our hardware. As you can see, cutting it pretty close. just enough clearance to run a socket down in there. So, and I did check, this thing will clear, even though it's sitting just above that seal. Looks like it actually clears just fine. At least I'm pretty sure it does. So now I can move on to other projects, but there is finally a new radiator in the 54 Plymouth. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. That way I can help you guys out. I know this is not going to apply to the majority of people, but if you have a 53 or 54 Plymouth and you're looking for a radiator, so far this is the only way that I have found to be able to get one to work inside here. So there you can see the material that I ripped on either side. Not a whole lot, but just enough to get some clearance. And then I did also clearance some of the metal down inside there. So I need to pretty it up, which I will do at a later date. But I was just trying to get things mocked up so I could solve this issue.